Hello everyone and welcome to this video on modelling components in Fusion 360. In this video we're going to be modelling the spindle component that you can see on screen now. If you would like to follow along with this exercise, you can find an engineering drawing for this component in the video description below. Okay, so let's begin. The general approach that I'm going to take for modelling this particular component is to use a single revolve feature to create the main body of material. Then I will add chamfers and rads as necessary. Finally, I'm going to add the cutouts at each side of the base plate and the whole feature. Okay, so let's begin. So I create a new design by going to the new design tab. And the first thing that I'm going to do is create a sketch for my revolve feature. So I go to create sketch and I'm going to place this sketch on the ZX plane. I'm going to get my line tool and then I'm going to begin sketching the profile for the spindle. Now this is reasonably complicated, so just bear with me a little bit. So we have something which looks like this for the top section. Then we have a plane section, then another step, and then another step, and then an undercut, and then another step, and then finally we have the base plate. Okay, so I now have something which is very approximately the correct shape and I can begin dimensioning this. So I'm going to get my sketch dimension tool and starting from the top I'm going to dimension the main diameters of the component. So to place a diameter I click on the center line, I click on the extremity of the diameter, and before I place the dimension I right click and hold and press diameter dimension, and that allows me to dimension diameters directly rather than having to place radius dimensions everywhere. So I can tell from the engineering drawing that this is a 14mm diameter, and I'm going to place the rest of my diameters in a very similar way. Okay, now that I'm done with my diameters, I can place the heights of my particular features. So again, still using the sketch dimension tool, I'm going to dimension from the base of the component as per the engineering drawing and ensure that I'm dimensioning all of the features in the correct way. So I can see that this flange feature is 16. Moving up, I can see that this feature is 40. Now there might be a particular issue here because I've not made my original sketch tall enough, so we can see that lots of the lines are overlapping here. So just to ensure that I don't see any issues as I dimension my sketch, I'm just going to escape out of the sketch dimension tool and I'm going to drag some of these lines so that the shape is more closely resembles the sizes that I'm eventually going to set. Once I've done that, I can go back into the sketch dimension tool. And I know that this particular, sorry, just got something selected there. Go to the sketch dimension tool and I know that this height here is 50. Sorry, that's incorrect. This is actually 45. 16, 40, 45. I know that this height is 70. Again, incorrect, that's 65, sorry. I know that this height is 70. I know that this height is 86. And that the overall height of the component is 90. Okay, I can tell that I've fully dimensioned my sketch as all of my sketch lines are black. I've got all of the relevant data in here, so I can now press Finish Sketch. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a revolve feature. So I go to Create and I go to Revolve. Now it's automatically picked the profile, but if it had not done this, I would simply need to click in the profile I've just sketched. And the only other bit of information I need to give this particular revolve feature is the axis about which I'm going to revolve that sketch. So I press the arrow next to the axis, and I've deliberately sketched this line here to be the center of revolution for this particular feature. So I click on this line and it gives me a revolve feature, and it will default to 360 degrees. As we've seen before, I can get this grab handle, and I don't have to create a full 360 degree revolve. I can pick any angle I choose, but for this particular component I'm going to leave this set to 360, and that's all the information that I need to give the feature. I'm happy with that feature, so I can press OK. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple of the chamfer features. So I'm going to go to Modify and Chamfer, and I'm going to pick on this edge, and this is a 6mm chamfer at 45 degrees, so I can leave the chamfer type to equal distance and press OK. And then the next chamfer feature is on this edge, and this is actually 1mm, sorry. Now, looking at my engineering drawing, I think probably what I want to do here is I want to create the cutouts on each edge of this base plate before I place this chamfer feature. So I'm actually not going to press OK to create this feature. I'm going to press Cancel, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create those cutouts. So to do that, I'm going to sketch on this face here. So I pick the face, and then I go to Create Sketch, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to project the edge of this base feature, this base flange, project this circle through onto my sketch. So I do that by going to Create, Project/Include, and Project, and then click on the edge in question, and then press OK. And I can see that I've now got a purple line here. To look back at or to get the view back to the drawing view, I can press this Look At button here, and it will take me back to the correct view. And I can see at the top I have a 20mm cutout which is positioned 47.5mm away from the center of the component. So to sketch this, I'm going to get the line tool, and I'm going to come down from the edge here across and then up on the other side. And then just to make sure that I place everything nice and centrally, I'm going to add in some construction geometry here. So I'm going to sketch a line from the origin of my component upward, and I'm going to sketch another line from the origin of my component downward. And on both of these lines, I'm going to select them, right click and hold, and press Normal/Construction, and that just means that I can use these lines to create constraints, but they're not visible in my final sketch. So once I've done that, I can now make this cutout feature symmetric about this center line. So I can go to Constraints and Symmetry. I'm going to pick on one corner of that sketch line, the other corner of that sketch line, and then the center line, and that will now be symmetric. So I need to give this particular feature a few more bits of information. So I'm going to get my sketch dimension tool. I'm going to set this length here to be 20mm, and I'm going to set the distance between this line here and the origin of my component to be 47.5mm as per the engineering drawing. On the other side, I can see that I've just got a 20mm cutout, which is a chord across this particular circle. So all I need to do here is go to my line tool, sketch from one side of the circle horizontally across to the other side of the circle. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my sketch dimension tool and make sure that this line is 20mm long. Now, because Fusion 360 knows that this line is horizontal, and it knows that this is 20mm long, and we've set the diameter of the geometry which we've projected, the sketch environment has enough information to fully constrain all of those lines. We don't need to set the distance on this side or for this particular cutout. I'm happy with that sketch, and it's all fully constrained, so I can press Finish Sketch. And the next thing I'm going to do is just use these sketches to cut out material from that base feature. So I go to Create, and I go to Extrude. I'm going to pick this profile, and I'm going to pick this profile. I'm going to rotate my model so I can see what I'm doing, and I'm just going to drag these profiles all the way through my base material to ensure that I've cut all the way through that base feature. I'm happy with that. My operation is set to cut, so I am removing material, so I can press OK, and I now have those cutouts in place. Now that I've done that, I can place the chamfer feature that I spoke of before. So I go to Modify and Chamfer, and because those cutout features have split this edge into two pieces, I now need to select both of these edges and set that chamfer to 1mm. Again, that's 45 degrees, so I can leave the chamfer type as equal distance and press OK. Okay, I'm nearly done now, so I need to place the hole feature in one side of my component. So what I would normally do here is I would go to Create and Hole, and then I would place that on the face where I need to create the hole. Now, one issue that we might encounter here is being able to set the hole in a particular place on that face which is not concentric with the this cylinder, or the base cylinder. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a sketch which just has a single point in it at the correct location, and then we will use that point within the sketch to place our hole and constrain the hole to be in the correct location. So in order to do that, I'm going to go to Create and Sketch, and I'm going to sketch on this top face here, and I know that from my engineering drawing the position of this hole is in line with the origin of my component and is a distance of 40mm away from the center. So to do this, I'm going to pick my line tool, I'm going to start at the origin of my component, place a line like this, and use my sketch dimension tool to set this to be 40mm long. I'm going to click on that line and make that a construction line, and then finally I'm going to go to Create and Point, and I'm going to place a point on the end of that line that I've sketched. I'm happy with that, so I can press Finish Sketch. So we can see I now have a point which is at the exact center of where I want to place this hole, and what that allows me to do now is it allows me to go to Create and Hole, click on this face to indicate where I want to, the face upon which I want to place the hole, and then click upon this point to snap the hole to that particular point. All I need to do now is I need to give the feature all of the information it needs to create the hole. So I can tell from my engineering drawing that this is a 7mm diameter hole, and that we have a counter bore on this hole, so I need to change the hole type from simple to counter bore. I can tell that the counter bore is 12mm in diameter and is 5mm deep. And I know that the hole runs all the way through my component, so I can change my extent from distance to all. And that means that I've now got a hole which is in the correct location with the correct counter bore detail, which runs all the way through my component. I'm happy with that feature, so I can press OK. And then the final thing that I have to do is I have to add some radii, so I can tell from a drawing note that all unspecified radii on this component are 0.5mm. So if I go to Modify and I go to Fillet, and I'm just going to pick on the edges which have this 0.5mm radius, which is actually all of the internal corners in this particular case. And because they're all the same size, I can just pick them all in one feature and set that to be 0.5mm. Again, I'm happy with that feature, so I can press OK. So the last thing we need to do is just put a chamfer on the end of our component. So I go to Modify and Chamfer, I click on this edge at the very end of our component. I know this is a 1mm chamfer and it's at 45 degrees, so again I can leave the chamfer type as equal distance. I'm happy with this feature, so I can press OK. And now if we just check back at our reference component, I can see that all of the information, or all of the geometry, is identical to the reference component. It's correct to the engineering drawing, so we're actually done with modeling this component. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video.